Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedules to join us today for this session on rumors and gossip, avoiding the harmful effects. My name is Stephanie White, and I'm the Benefits Assistant on the BEWell team here in Virginia Beach. You can go ahead and advance the slide. Before we get started with our session today, I'd like to quickly go over our BEWell offerings for anyone who's new to the program. Personify Health is our incentivizing platform. It's an easy and stress-free way you can earn up to $500 a year just for staying on top of your health and participating in a variety of activities like getting your routine screenings, completing workouts with Wellbeats, tracking steps, and so much more. This year, we're excited to offer 2 new resources through Personify Health. Kaya Health is a digital musculoskeletal program that's designed to help you manage muscle and joint pain from the comfort of your own home. And the X program is a personalized and convenient digital quit tobacco program built in collaboration with the Mayo Clinic that helps members beat their addiction and live tobacco-free, whether they smoke, vape, dip, or chew. Our disease management programs are available if you're enrolled in Sentara health plans and have been diagnosed with diabetes, coronary artery disease, congestive heart failure, asthma, or COPD. Diagnosed employees have access to a case management team that will help you better manage your condition. If you've been diagnosed with a rare chronic condition such as rheumatoid arthritis, cystic fibrosis, or Crohn's disease, and you're enrolled in Sentara health plans, you can receive help and support for your specific needs through Sentara health plans case management as well. Expectant mothers enrolled in Sentara health plans also have access to receive guidance and support throughout their pregnancy and postpartum with our Partners in Pregnancy program. Guidance Resources is a robust employee assistance program available to all active employees and members of their household. The program offers short-term counseling that's free and confidential for matters such as relationship conflicts, workplace concerns, or grieving the loss of a loved one. They offer an array of additional services, including work-life solutions to help you manage life's everyday challenges by helping find anything from party venues to vacation plans, adult daycare takers to child daycare centers, financial resources, and even legal guidance. Guidance Resources also offers well-being coaching, where employees can speak with a coach to help you regain balance and build resilience, so you can feel your best both at work and at home. Certified coaches work with you one-on-one, providing confidential, practical support to help reduce obstacles, manage stress, and develop strategies for a healthier, more balanced life. Wonder Health is a science-based and clinically proven digital weight management program that teaches you the skills to help you lose weight while still enjoying the foods you love. The application period for this program is quarterly, and the next one opens on March 30th. But you can go ahead and add yourself to the waitlist now to be notified of the next application period by visiting wonderhealth.com/BEWell, and that's Wonder without the E. We also have our BEWell champions. They're an extension of our BEWell team and serve their specific work locations by promoting our initiatives and programs. We have about 170 champions throughout the city and schools, so if you're not sure who the champion is at your workplace, or if you'd like to recommend someone for your site or apply yourself, visit our website or select Meet Your BEWell Champions on the benefits page in the Personify Health app for more details. BEWell offers events and webinars just like this one, plus our mobile mammo van, which travels throughout the city for convenient access, as well as flu vaccine clinics every fall and quarterly health screenings where you can check on your health and speak to a health educator about nutrition. Our next health screening will take place as part of our Beach Bash vendor fair at Tallwood Elementary on Saturday, March 28th, and we hope to see you there. New this year, BEWell has partnered with Sentara Community Care to offer convenient access to medical care through the Sentara Mobile Clinic van, where all members enrolled in a Virginia Beach City or Schools health plan can receive a variety of services, from primary care to sick visits to even routine lab testing and more. And the next mobile clinic van will be on Tuesday, March 17th at Plaza Annex. We can go ahead to our next slide. All of this information, including a list of our events and registration links, is available on our website, benefits@thebeach.com/s/wellness. If you're a leader or a manager, you also have a resource available on our website from the main BEWell drop-down menu. Just select Leadership Resources to see all the ways BEWell can help you create a culture of wellness at your worksite. Many of our programs and events are an opportunity to earn points in Personify Health, and you can redeem those points for cash rewards. So for attending today's live session, you'll be rewarded with 300 points, and we'll send an email within about a week with an electronic voucher code. But while points and cash rewards are great, we do feel the benefits of our programs vastly exceed a money earning opportunity, because it's all about providing tools to help you develop healthier habits and live happier lives. If you have questions about any of our programs, please feel free to reach out. You can reach BEWell by emailing us at bewell@vbschools.com, or you can call us at 757-263-1060, option 2. Thank you again for being here, and it's my pleasure to pass the mic to our speaker today, Chimdi.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. My name is Chimdi Hazier. I'll be presenting today's session, Rumors and Gossip, Avoiding the Harmful Effects, brought to you by ComPsych, your employee assistance program provider. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we dive into the content. So your audio is going to be muted for the duration of the session, just to eliminate background noise, but you can participate in today's session, and I hope you do, by using the question tool. You can find it in the upper right-hand corner of your screen where there's that little question mark. Feel free to click there and ask any questions you have during the duration of the session. I'll be monitoring the questions and answering as we go, so no need to wait until the end, but we'll also have some time at the end in case you want to save your questions until then. Something I like to do is ask folks to test out all of the technology, though I think things are working, but specifically try out this question tool. So if you would like to, click on that question tool, confirm you can hear and see me, and see the presentation with a hello. That would be beautiful. And folks have already been using the emojis and things like that. I'm seeing some hellos coming through. Perfect. I also want to name that closed captioning is available for these sessions. You can find it in the bottom right-hand corner with the CC. All right, I'm seeing some I can hear you perfectly, some hellos, some highs. Something else you're noticing is that you typed in your hello, but you didn't see anyone else's. That's for confidentiality. So whenever I reference anything that's shared in this question tool, any of the comments that come in, I'm going to focus on the content. I'm not going to say the name of any of the askers, and all the text from these questions and from these comments will not be included in the recording of our session today. I'm seeing some heart emojis, I'm seeing some thumbs up emojis, so it sounds like everything is coming through clearly. For this session, I am going to be turning my camera off for the duration, but I will be back at the end to wrap things up. Something I like to say about these sessions as well is that you might be familiar with some of this content already, and I do hope, as I'm sharing, that it makes intellectual sense to you. But I think we all know there are things that we're familiar with it, we've heard it before, it makes sense, we understand it, we get it, but when it comes time to actually put it into practice, it's a little bit of a challenge. So my invitation to you, as you're receiving this information, is to just ask yourself, are there one, maybe two things that you would be willing to commit to putting into practice immediately after this session? So think in the next few hours, in the next few days, sometime this week, just to give yourself the experience of this information. Because we can talk about, we want to avoid these harmful effects, but I really do believe that experience is the greatest teacher. Before I turn my camera off and we dive into the content, I want to do a quick little touch base just to get a sense of where you all are coming from. Someone's asking, is the EAP free and confidential? Yes, it is. No one is going to know that you went and explored the resources. No one's going to know which content you accessed when you have, conversations with us one-on-one with the counseling. Your employer isn't going to know about that. So feel free, and I really encourage you to take advantage because these resources are here for you. So thank you for that question. And someone's asking, is also this the chat box? Yes. So as I said in the beginning, we're going to use the Q&A just for confidentiality. And so I won't be referencing anyone's name, as things come in through that Q&A. So final little touch base before I turn off my camera. I would love to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you say you are when it comes to, dealing with or experiencing the effects of rumors and gossip? So 1 on the scale would be that you're gossiping right now. Like you got your phone open, you're texting someone, you're in a 3-way chat with somebody, you're in a group chat where someone's excluded. Like you're in it, and also maybe you've really experienced the negative effects where you're like, yeah, this is painful. I still have a grudge against somebody from a year ago because they said something mean to me. 10 would be the opposite, where you are like a bastion of confidentiality, where you are so professional, where you don't even know the word gossip. Rumor, what's her name, right? You're so good. You're just here for a good time. You're just here to hang out and learn something new, but this is not one of your challenges. Where would you put yourself on that scale of 1 to 10? Okay, I'm seeing some 5s coming in, some 9s and 8s, some 7s. I'm seeing some 3s. Okay, we can be honest. We can be honest, right? Seeing some 5s and 7s. I'm seeing a lot of 9s. I'm seeing a lot of like towards the higher end as well. So folks who are like, yeah, I'm an 8. Okay, maybe I've like never ever have gossiped in my life, but yeah, like I'm pretty good about this. Someone's saying 8 now. In a previous job, it was a 3. So there's a recognition that sometimes the culture that we're in can affect, the extent to the rumors and the gossip that we're experiencing. Someone's saying, okay, honestly, 1. And listen, thank you for being honest. How can we grow? How can we improve unless we're honest? I'm seeing someone's like probably halfway. Someone's asking, should I be seeing the numbers? Because I'm not seeing them. You should not be seeing the numbers. We're using the question tool. It's totally confidential, speaking of rumors and gossip. So you're not going to see anyone's name. You're not going to see anyone's question. So I'll be making a point to like do a lot of voiceover so you have a hopefully felt sense of the community that's here, but just so folks feel open, being vulnerable and sharing, because the reality is this topic does get a little bit personal. We want to make sure folks are able to feel that they can share freely. Someone's saying a 4, I'm still carrying hurt from past toxic environments. Thankfully, they're in a great department, but they still have interactions with people who have attacked their character, right? So folks are staying right down the middle with a 5, but they're working on getting to a 10. So the question was just getting a sense of where people are when it comes to rumors and gossip, how much of this is a real challenge you're dealing with versus something where you're like, yeah, maybe y'all over there in my last job, I dealt with it, but actually now things are great. So I appreciate you all opening up and sharing your perspectives. I'll go ahead and turn my camera off and let's dive into our agenda for today's session. And again, I think no matter, even if we put ourselves as a 10 or a 9 on that scale, we've probably all been in this situation where we're hearing or maybe sharing that juicy piece of information. And then we have the choice, am I going to spill the tea or am I going to break the cycle of gossip? And sometimes it seems like gossip and rumors, they're harmless on the surface, but as folks have already mentioned, they can quickly become really damaging to trust, damaging to productivity, damaging to morale. So this session is designed to help you understand the underlying nature of gossip and rumors, recognize their harmful effects, and equip you with the tools to actively prevent and address gossip in the workplace. By the end of the session, hopefully you'll also feel empowered to foster a work culture where conversations are positive, they are constructive, and ultimately that creates a more supportive and productive workplace for all of us. So let's start with just some basic definitions so we understand what we're talking about when it comes to gossip, when it comes to rumors. We've got this Merriam-Webster definition that says, a gossip is a person who habitually reveals personal or sensational facts about other people. So gossip is often a revelation of intimate details that were not meant for public knowledge. In the workplace, this type of conversation, it can really quickly create an atmosphere of distrust, of discomfort. And when we gossip, we often reveal or speculate on details about other people without their consent. Rumors we have are, unofficial, interesting pieces or stories, things in the news, might be true, might be invented, and it quickly spreads from person to person. So rumors can start as a small detail and then escalate as they travel, changing and growing along the way. They might not be based on facts, but they spread really quickly, leads to misunderstandings, damaged reputations, strained relationships. And together, gossip and rumors, they have the potential to create a toxic environment where trust erodes and morale suffers. That's why it's so essential to be mindful of these behaviors and how we can prevent them from taking root. I want to offer some numbers to ground us in our conversation. So this is from the National Center of Biotech Information. So according to them, gossip makes up nearly 65% of people's conversation. So this stat highlights just how common gossip is in our daily interactions, even in professional settings where you might think it should be out of place. Gossip, it's not just a rare occasional thing. It can consume a lot of our time and energy. The Stanford Graduate Business School found people spend on average 52 minutes per day gossiping. Over time, this is almost an hour a day in conversations that are unproductive, maybe even harmful. And it's not just the lost time, that's a consequence of gossip. There was a study from the Society of Human Resource Management. It found that 25% of employees have left a job due to a toxic work culture, and gossip was a significant contributing factor. So when gossip takes root, it often creates an environment where people feel uncomfortable, they feel unwelcomed, maybe even targeted. In fact, 26% of employees consider workplace gossip to be the biggest barrier to a healthy work culture, right? And it's not hard to see that, right? When we consider how gossip undermines trust, causes all this unnecessary drama, it distracts people. And finally, this survey by Leadership IQ found that 58% of employees report losing trust in a colleague due to gossip. So what I want these different stats to really emphasize is that it's not just harmless chatter. It's not like, oh, did you hear about so-and-so? And it's just this harmless thing. Not only can it take up significant time, but it can contribute to a negative work environment and even cause really talented, valuable employees to leave. So we're going to dive a little bit further into why gossip is harmful. Someone's saying there are people who kind of thrive on how much gossip they can pull into and how nasty they are, right? If you don't engage with them, right? And they're naming it is something that feels very prevalent in their department. Someone else is naming that's called drama. That's called drama. Yes, exactly. So hopefully this session can be really supportive because it sounds like this is something that folks are really working through. And I think we've all explained or experienced gossip to some extent, whether we've been a part of it or we've been on the receiving end of it. I want to sort of walk through why gossip is harmful. In the first image, we've got two people who are just sort of sitting, they're sharing information together. Looks innocent, right? Little friendly chat. But key point, we start discussing others in their absence, which might be opening the door to gossip. And at this stage, it might seem harmless. It's just a couple of us, we're just talking. Are we speaking out of curiosity? Are we speaking about something more? In the second image, the person whispers something into another person's ear. This is where the gossip starts to move. Now, what was once a private exchange, it's now being shared. And it's important to recognize that once information starts spreading like this, it may be distorted, it may be exaggerated. And this is why it's critical to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of sharing this information? Third image, we start to see the ripple effect. The gossip has spread to a group of people. What was a small personal conversation has now turned into a larger network of whispers. This is where the gossip has snowballed out of control. It can escalate really quickly. And what started as something kind of innocent can easily turn into something harmful. So it's really crucial to stop and ask ourselves if the information we're spreading is really serving anyone or if we're just feeding into negativity. In the final image, the person's left out, the one who may have been the subject of gossip, is now feeling isolated, they're feeling hurt. This is the emotional consequence of gossip. It can lead to people feeling excluded, alienated, even betrayed. It damages relationships, lowers morale, creates an atmosphere of distrust, right? Imagine how the team dynamic shifts when one person feels they can't trust their colleagues because of gossip. So I've got some questions because I definitely want to engage you all in this conversation. And I see some comments coming through already in the Q&A. So I'm going to read these questions out. Feel free to respond to the ones that really resonate with you. And then I'll be sharing with the group, again, leaving out anyone's name. For folks who joined after my intro, we're just using the question tool, and it is confidential. You're only going to see what you type in. First set of questions. Can you recall a time when gossip affected you personally? How did it impact you? Have you ever witnessed gossip about someone else? What effect did you see it having on them? How often do you find yourself in conversation that might be considered gossip? And how do you feel about it afterward? And then finally, have you ever felt uncomfortable because of something said in a gossipy conversation? How did you handle it? All right. So someone's saying, I'm surprised in the definition of gossip that it states that it's facts. So gossips definitely can be true or untrue. Someone's naming, gossip makes you sad. They're naming there's the sadness, the sense of hurt. Folks are mentioning feeling heartbroken and depressed. A lot of yeses to the questions coming up in terms of, can you recall this time? Have you witnessed these things? Have you found yourself in these conversations? Someone's saying yes, especially when something wasn't true, right? Someone's naming feeling hurt and betrayed. They've witnessed it on someone else. Someone's saying it left them feeling misunderstood. Someone's saying, yes, I have honestly participated in sharing it. So there's this recognition there. For folks who are asking about where you write your responses, just leverage that question tool in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. It is confidential, so you're only going to see what you type in. And so when I share folks' responses, I only focus on the content. Some folks are naming that I try not to engage in gossip. Someone's mentioning that they didn't like the feeling. They definitely lost trust. Someone's naming, yeah, they were hurt that confidential or untrue information was shared with others. Someone's naming that, I've been the one who was on the receiving end of gossip and clicks, and I'm feeling so bad going to work. Someone's naming, I don't typically believe a lot of what is said in these types of conversations. Folks are noticing, I find myself in gossipy conversations all the time because I'm a listener, and most of the people on my team, they come to me to vent. I feel good after most of the time because the person venting seems to feel better. So it's not so much about, I got something really juicy. It's, I can tell this person needs to get that off my chest so I could be a listening ear for them. Other folks are mentioning they felt small, especially when the gossip affected them personally. Someone's naming it felt kind of icky and they hate receiving gossip. Someone's saying they try not to engage when others complain, but it's hard to stop once the snowball starts. Folks are naming how misinformation or half-truths really can affect the individual and the group. Someone's naming how it runs through the department like wildfire, especially when you walk in and everyone gets real quiet. So that leaves you feeling outcasted, feeling alienated. Someone's naming they'll try to excuse themselves. They'll try to redirect the conversation. As the manager, someone's saying, I hear gossipy conversations among staff. And it's hard when those same employees then say the morale is low, but they're not realizing they've been adding to the issue when they've been gossiping about their colleagues. Someone's saying, our department has a lot of gossip. I watch and I don't engage, but because I don't engage, I'm considered an outcast and I'm not included in the normal activity. I'm seen as standoffish, right? I'm not engaging. Folks are mentioning they disengage and change the subject. Folks are mentioning I try to shut things down if I know they aren't true. Folks are saying, it's frustrating when gossip about yourself comes back to you because it feels like trust is broken. Someone's saying, yeah, you lose a little trust when someone is spreading gossip. Folks are mentioning, I feel I can't trust anyone that I work with. I love the kids, but may look for a different school and hope for the best. So an exact example of what we talked about how, valuable, quality, talented people want to leave an organization because of the gossip. Someone's saying, if I ever confronted the person sharing that it wasn't fair to the person who was not there to represent themselves, the person sharing said, well, it's okay because it's true. Right? We're going to get a little bit into our next session here about, just because something is true doesn't mean it's not gossip and isn't, contributing to a culture that, is negative and isn't supportive. So let's get into this flow chart, because someone mentioned, well, it's true, right? So who cares? This is something to consider if you've wondered, okay, I might be gossiping, I might be finding myself in these conversations, or maybe I'm not sure, but I recognize that, all right, if this creates to a harmful culture or negative culture, I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be contributing to toxicity, let me do my part. So how can I help myself out in these situations? So this is a flow chart to help us answer this question of, am I gossiping? First, we do need to take, just check in with ourselves. when we're discussing something, do we feel a genuine curiosity about the situation or the person we're talking about? Curiosity is a sign of healthy communication. It shows that we're seeking understanding versus you're just bored. You're just looking for something to talk about. You're just looking for a way to connect to the person, and you feel like talking about a third person will be the way in, right? So, do you feel a genuine high level curiosity as you're talking? If not, you're probably gossiping. So, we want to stop. If you do feel that curiosity, we want to move forward in the process, right? Next question. Is there any negative intent behind what I'm saying? Right? Are we talking about someone in a way that's meant to tear them down, meant to criticize them without offering any constructive feedback? So if you're like, yeah, I am trying to make that person like tear them down in my mind, ruin their reputation, whatever else, yes, you're gossiping, right? You want to stop. If the answer is no, meaning there's no negative intent, we can continue. But if you sense that your conversation is meant to harm someone, we need to pause, right? This is where gossip can sneak in. Next, we ask ourselves, would I say these things to the person I'm talking about if they were standing right here with me? If you're not willing to say something directly to someone's face, then we have to ask ourselves, why not, right? There's a good chance it's because it's gossip. If you would say it directly, then probably isn't gossip. Yeah. But again, we still need to make sure we're being mindful of our intentions because some folks, they're confrontational and they're willing to say some things that aren't so kind, directly to someone's face as well. Final check. Are my comments serving the person I'm discussing? Right? Are you sharing information in a way that helps them, or is it just to vent or talk behind their back? If you're sharing something with the intention of helping them or improving the situation, it's not gossip. But if your comments aren't constructive, it likely does fall into that gossip category. So once you've asked yourself these questions, you'll have a clearer sense of whether you're gossiping or just engaging in healthy communication. Main thing here is gossip often comes with negative intent, lack of curiosity, and unwillingness to speak directly to the person. Folks are mentioning, I can relate to not being included in activities when you don't gossip or want to hear negativity. Someone's naming, it's hard to confront when the gossiping persons are in, positions of leadership, positions of upper management. Someone's naming, I've had others, even managers, tell something, then tell me not to tell anyone. So I do not, and I honor their request. Then I find out everyone else already knows, right? So there's a sense of why am I the one staying quiet when this was information that everyone kind of knew about already? And I think that really speaks to a key thing, which is, it's one thing to have a session like this where we're saying, all right, y'all, let's stop gossiping. But then, is that something that's being embodied throughout the organization, right? From the very top of leadership, all the way to the folks who are brand new to the organization or just starting, at the beginning of their career. So definitely being honest with ourselves, because it's also easy to look outside of ourselves and say, well, this person over there is gossiping. And it's like, well, we can't control what they do, but what we can control is what's my intent, right? What is my behavior? What am I doing? So it's interesting when we reflect on gossip, how it can stem from a variety of motivations and intentions. It can reflect an underlying personal or social dynamic, right? When I say, oh, I heard Sam's out sick again. You think he's really sick? You think he was going on a vacation? So what's the intent? Is it social bonding? You're wanting to strengthen your relationships and bonds with others. Many folks have already mentioned that they feel like they take a hit when it comes to social bonding because they're choosing not to engage in this way. Is it about expressing frustration or discomfort, right? You're trying to vent, you're trying to express your dissatisfaction in this sort of indirect way. Is it about attention seeking, right? You become the center of attention because you like feeling important. You like being the one who's like, oh, did you hear what happened? And everyone turns towards you and leans forward. Is it about self-esteem, validation? You're trying to boost your own self-esteem or gain validation from others, right? Or is it about jealousy or envy, right? Do you want to undermine or damage the reputation of someone perceived as a rival? We want to be really clear about our intent, understanding the underlying intent that can help us address the root causes of gossip and promote healthier communication and relationships within the workplace. Folks are mentioning this can be really challenging at times. Folks are mentioning my usual reason is for curiosity to be helpful. Most of the time, I just don't pay attention to it. Some folks are mentioning, you can't talk about sick leave, HIPAA laws. And so it makes sense why people would start gossiping about it because I can't say the real reason. So let's guess, let's speculate. And so I think about my own relationship to gossip and especially this point around when people are venting. And I also agree, I'm a listener as well. I want to hold space and provide space for people. That's why I love facilitating. And so there can be this pleasure that comes with, wow, you trust me. Like you're opening up to me. You're being vulnerable with me instead of, doing what you know to do, which is say, hey, I recognize that this is gossip, et cetera, right? So I want to identify 10 ways for us to recognize gossip and rumors. And then I want to invite us to be the ones to break the cycle. So first, conversations behind closed doors or it's whispered. People already mentioned you walk into a room, suddenly it gets real quiet. It's a good chance there was some gossiping going on. Comments like, oh, did you hear about? So there isn't really facts or verification. It's just like speculation. Or the focus is on personal lives, on unrelated topics to work. There's third-party opinions, right? So I'm talking to you. It's an AB conversation, but someone is seeing their way into it, right? So there's a third-party opinion. If tension or distrust is the outcome of the conversation, there might have been gossip, there might have been some rumors involved. If its creation is just more drama or speculation, there's no source, like who said that, right? Not I heard, but who did you hear from? Who said that, right? And if it's spreading super quickly, someone already mentioned, you hear, like, don't tell anyone about this. Turns out everyone knows. It's spread really quickly. And if the information is repeated, so you're not getting it from a direct source, you're saying, someone told this person who told this person who told me, and now I'm repeating it to you. These are some of the ways that we can recognize gossip. Folks are mentioning it is hard to resist the social bonding part, especially when you're new. You want to find a way to bond with your coworkers. Someone's mentioning it makes it hard to trust anyone because if you constantly hear people talking crap about coworkers, you know they're going to say the same thing about you. And folks are asking about access to the slides. So I actually make a point and share a PDF of this session at the end as one of the resources so you can continue to access these slides. Also, the session is being recorded and you'll be emailed the recording within like 48 hours. Someone's mentioning, I feel like whatever's been said has done damage already with a lot of people. I'm always wondering if I said or did something that someone took wrong. They're new to the organization and they're always friendly and welcoming, encouraging, but sometimes they feel left out. So that's a really great point, right? Where you're wondering, what's the reason, right? Maybe I said or did something, it turned into, gossip, and I have no idea because no one came and spoke to me directly. Someone's mentioning, I don't think it's hard to avoid these conversations, but in a work environment where this is typical, it does alienate the person who won't participate. What I find so interesting about these comments coming through is how many people say, I don't engage, and so I feel alienated, which means that there are a lot of people who are not engaging in this gossip, which means there's a community to be found amongst folks who say, hey, I want to connect. I want to be in community. I want to have a great, coworker, colleague relationship in a way that doesn't involve talking about people. So what I'm really getting from these questions or these comments is that there's a real hunger for community that's not rooted in gossip. And folks are saying, I think sometimes folks don't even realize what gossip is. So hopefully these 10 ways of recognizing gossip and rumors can give us a bit more clarity and we can notice for ourselves, oh wait, I did lower my voice when I started talking to this person. Maybe that's my way of knowing I was about to do some gossiping. So again, my invitation to all of you is to be the one who breaks the gossip cycle, right? If you were judged, choosing understanding, choosing acceptance if you were rejected, compassion if you were shamed, right? Being the person that you needed when you were hurting, not the person who hurt you, right? Vow to be better than what broke you, right? We want to heal instead of becoming bitter so we can act from our heart, not just our pain. What does it look like to do this practically? So it can be a really tough habit to break, especially if it's a close-knit group. Folks have mentioned, especially if it feels like it has been normalized in the culture and there's a sense of sort of social isolation or punishment that comes with not participating. But when we focus on the right strategies, we can create a culture where this kind of open and respectful communication replaces rumors and speculation. Some folks are mentioning, yeah, I tend to feel alienated as well. How can we connect and be sociable in a positive way? Someone's saying there's this old saying about the level of conversation where the lowest is talking about others, next is talking about events, and the highest is about talking about ideas. People are mentioning, most just seem to want to spread something to deflect from themselves, which I think is so interesting because now I'm thinking about what is it that you would want to deflect, right? Because there's a bit of saying, like, I know this person's intention, I know their motivation, and sometimes what we, project onto others might have something to do with how we feel. Someone's saying, yes, I love it, breaking the gossip cycle, presenting yourself in a way that people won't even come to you to gossip. So, first thing, encouraging open communication and transparency. This is one of the best ways to counter gossip, right? When people feel informed and they trust they have access to information and to accurate information, there's less need to speculate or rely on rumors. So open communication means being available for questions, sharing information when possible, fostering a culture where people feel comfortable approaching each other directly. This transparency, it builds trust and it creates a team environment where gossip has less room to thrive. So if you are in a leadership position, especially, this is a great place where you can be a part of opening that communication and transparency. But as we know, it doesn't matter what role you're in, it can be easy to fall into gossip. So just consider for yourself, is there information? Is there, some, information I have, something I can share that maybe someone in a different team or a different department might be wondering about. And so because I haven't openly shared it, they're gossiping, they're speculating, they're spreading rumors. So each of us, I think with all of this work, right, it's easy to point to someone else and say, here's what this person needs to do to break the cycle. But I always want to encourage us to look inward and say, what can I do to break this cycle? Setting clear expectations, leading by example, right? We need to be the ones to demonstrate respectful and positive communication. So for leaders, this means being that role model in how you talk about others and how you handle sensitive information. But again, it's not just leaders. We all take a part in modeling the behaviors we want to see. And when we set the tone, others are more likely to follow, right? And that can create a ripple effect that reduces the gossip. It's also important to establish and communicate anti-gossip policies. So policies that clarify this is what constitutes gossip. Here are the consequences of engaging in it. Having a policy in place, it provides clear guidelines for everyone, and it shows that the organization is serious about maintaining a respectful workplace. And we want these to be policies that aren't just written down and we forget about them, but they're shared, they're discussed, they're reviewed regularly, so everyone is reminded about their role in maintaining a positive work culture. And then one of the best ways to build positive gossip-free culture is by promoting team building activities, right? When people connect on a personal level, they're more likely to feel empathy, understanding, respect towards each other. So team building activities foster trust and communication. They give people a healthy way to engage and bond without resorting to gossip. And these activities remind us that we're all working towards a common goal. We can be allies rather than competitors. And again, there's so many questions and comments coming in that speak to I'm not interested in engaging in gossip and I feel left out. So there's a real hunger, I think, for opportunities for folks to connect in a way that's rooted in true community and relation and not in talking about other people. Someone's saying, I try to keep others informed of actual information that can be shared so they don't need to speculate. Someone's saying, definitely lead by example. Someone's saying, how do you have sensitive meetings/conversations that require a closed door without creating the perception of gossip? This is a really great point, right? Because sometimes there are things that just need to be private. They need to be, one-on-one, small group. There is a level of sensitivity, and so we can't have everybody, in the room. So that can create this perception of, there they go, they're going into their room, and they're all gonna gossip about us, right? So that fear is created. And so ultimately, when it comes to perception, right, how someone else sees something, we can't control. If someone wants to say, oh, they're gossiping, we can't make them not see something if they want to see it that way. But what we can do is at every turn, leverage these different points on the screen so that the overall culture becomes one where it's not normal to do a lot of gossiping, right? So when you aren't having a sensitive meeting or conversation, are you sharing, hey, we just had this meeting about X, Y, or Z, here's what we can share about it. So folks know that wasn't us trying to be secretive or spreading rumors. This is what we talked about in this meeting, right? Because we all understand some things need to be private. So if you can, in those conversations that can comfortably be public, can you share that information with people, right? And then in your daily interactions with people, can you embody and uphold this standard where you are being open, where you are, speaking honestly, telling people how you feel, speaking to people directly, so that it's sort of expected that your character, is of, someone who isn't engaging with a lot of gossip. Final point to add, because many folks have mentioned, I have been the gossiper. I've been the one on the receiving end. I played a role in this. One of the things we can do is apologize, right? It's often overlooked when you think about breaking the cycle. The reality is that we've all made mistakes, and acknowledging them honestly can help rebuild trust. Many people already mentioned how trust is the thing that's been broken when they hear about, themselves and a rumor gets back to them, when they see someone talking about others. So if you've said something that you regret, or you were part of a conversation that crossed the line, offering a sincere apology can go a really long way. It shows integrity, it takes responsibility, and it sets an example for others. I hope that we've all had the experience in our life of someone coming to us and offering a genuine apology. And if so, you probably know how much it meant and how good it felt and how much you appreciated it, because we all know that it can be hard to offer these genuine apologies. So I want to talk about how we can offer genuine apologies that really land. Someone's also mentioning the culture is to know everything, like information. But the reality is that we don't need to know everything about everyone, right? It actually can protect us sometimes to not know everything. Really great point. Someone's naming they were terminated from a place of employment after I had said something and sincerely apologized to the person before it circled back around to them. So someone's naming, I tried to do what I thought was the right thing and apologize, and yet I still experienced those consequences, right? So I want to name that, sometimes we will still experience the repercussions of our actions. It might mean termination or some other kind of, restitution or something else. And I think ultimately knowing at the end of the day that you chose to apologize and you did your part, basically, hopefully that, allows you to say, well, at least I did, what allows me to feel like I'm walking in integrity. And folks are naming like HR matters are private, right? So there are some things that we know they're not supposed to be everyone's business, right? It's supposed to be private. So how do we do an apology that really lands, right? Not a blanket, oh, I'm sorry, right? We want to make sure that we're able to detail, here's what happened in the situation, right? Here's how I responded. Here's how it affected the other person. Here was the overall outcome. We want to acknowledge the hurt or the damage that was done, why, what you did was wrong, how it negatively affected the other person. Taking responsibility for the situation, right? What was my role? How am I going to prevent this action from occurring in the future? And then asking for forgiveness, right? What can you do? Is there anything you can do to rectify the situation? Making a promise won't happen again, or a pledge to work towards the goal, and if possible, a form of restitution. Someone's mentioning ownership is so important. Someone's saying it's best if gossip is eliminated. However, a sincere apology, as in this example, it does count for something. So on the screen, we have an example, right? Instead of just, oh, I'm sorry your feelings were hurt, we can say, I feel badly that I hurt your feelings. It wasn't my intention to cause you or anyone else harm with my words. I apologize. In the future, I will be more mindful of what I say. I also want to offer some responses to gossip, right? Sometimes we just don't know what to say. It feels awkward. And so we're like, I don't know what to do. We freeze. And then we unintentionally contribute to the gossiping. So I want to offer a couple of things that we can try, right? It could be as simple as, I'm not sure about the details of that situation, but I prefer to stay out of conversations like this, right? And then maybe you just change the subject to something else. Or how do you know that for sure? Have you heard both sides of the story? And so I think depending on your tone, that can sound like you're actually digging for more like, ooh, have you heard both sides? But the idea here is just to gently remind someone like, how do you know that for sure? Have you heard both sides of the story? Or just saying, I'm really not comfortable discussing others behind their back. Let's talk about something else. Or even like, isn't it funny how the stories change every time they're retold? Like, let's not even get caught up in that. And then we transition to something else. If you have found phrases or approaches that have really worked for you when it comes to responding to gossip, feel free to put it into the question tool so we can share it with others. The goal here is stay calm, stay polite. You don't need to get, defensive. You don't need to get, preachy. You don't need to get, cold. You can still be warm and polite as you say, hey, I'm not really interested in that, right? So we're firm, but we're still friendly. And what these responses do is it helps to deflect the gossip without participating in it, right? You're signaling you're not interested. It also redirects the conversations in a respectful way. This also can help people reflect on the accuracy of the gossip. But again, we don't want to be encouraging people to just kind of keep talking about it further. And also, if you're someone who can, leverage humor, that's a great way to sort of diffuse the situation and shift the mood while also signaling that, yeah, you're not interested in engaging with the gossip. All right. Someone's mentioning they ask if they know if it's true, right? Someone's saying, referencing like, oh, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't care. Someone's saying sometimes just asking about a question about another topic can shift discussion to not engage. So you don't even necessarily need to be super explicit. Like, listen, I do not condone gossip. You can just be like, oh, by the way, did you see like that movie that came out, this weekend? But you're gonna watch the Oscars, et cetera, et cetera. Someone's mentioning their phrasing is, I'm not comfortable talking about this, right? I understand, but I also admire this detail about the person. So actually it becomes, maybe we turn it into speaking positively about someone, which is really beautiful. All right, I have got 3 scenarios for us to practice what we have learned and are learning about diffusing situations. Here's our first one. I heard that Tom might be getting fired because he's not meeting his targets. So, why is this considered gossip? What's the intent? What would you do in scenario number 1? Someone's saying, I heard, tells it all. As soon as you hear, I heard, that's gossip, right? Someone's saying it's spreading Tom's business, it's hearsay. Someone's saying, because you heard that, right? The intent is to pass info, to see what you know. It's speculation, keep it to yourself. Someone's saying, I heard rumor, not facts. Someone's saying it's gossip because I don't need to know that he may be fired, right? Not performing his work duties. It's nothing to do with me. Someone's mentioning it's phishing, you're repeating what you heard, it's negative. And if it is true, it's private, right? Another great point. Someone's saying this person doesn't know the facts, the intentions to spread gossip. Someone's saying, I want to be able to always walk away from these kinds of conversations. Folks are mentioning again, this is spreading Tom's business. It's not our business. Someone's saying, I would say, I haven't heard anything about that, and it is not my business. Someone's mentioning you're trying to get the office on edge so other people worry about their jobs. Someone's saying my goal is only to listen silently. Eventually I'll shut it down or walk away to not encourage engagement. Someone's saying their response would be, are you meeting your targets? So just again, send it right back to the person. Maybe with a little bit of an LOL, a little bit of a joke, right? With a little bit of humor. Someone's saying, why do you care? Could be their response. Someone's saying, I would probably respond with something like, oh, that would be awful for Tom if it's true. Let's hope it's not. So connecting to that, commiseration, that compassion. Someone's saying some people just want to talk about something other than themselves. So maybe we talk about a movie, we talk about the news, right? Something else. Someone's saying sometimes I may ask, who did you hear that from? Which brings accountability to who, started that rumor mill. So someone's saying, I would probably say, oh, I don't know anything about that, and then change the subject, right? Cut the conversation. Okay, scenario number 2. Did you hear that Jane and Mark are dating? They were seen together outside of work. So similarly, what would you do? Because I think we all know this is all gossip. So what would you do if you heard about Jane and Mark? What's the intent here? Why is this considered gossip? What would you do? Someone's saying my response would be complete silence. Someone's saying I put my headphones on. It's not my business. Tell them who cares. Something I want to name, because I love that y'all are very putting my headphones on. I'm staring them directly in their eyes and walking away. It's amazing to be so clear in your, desire to not engage with the gossip. And a lot of folks mentioned feeling a sense of, I don't feel like there's any, I feel like I'm an outcast now. I feel like I'm being isolated. So if your desire is to still engage in community, relationship, friendship with someone, consider what are some of the ways you could leverage humor or leverage diplomacy or, just some tact, right, in the way you engage, just so that it's I don't want to talk about Mark and Jane. I want to talk to you. I want to, learn about you, connect, but I don't necessarily want to do it while talking about Mark and Jane, right? Folks are naming the did you hear is a clear indication of this being gossip. The intent here is, discussing others and, it is juicy, but I would give, this is a scenario. And I was like, ooh, Jane and Mark. It's these are fictional people. It doesn't matter. So we recognize these things can be juicy. Sometimes we really do want to learn more, but can we give the blank face, say, it is not our business. It doesn't concern me. Someone's saying silence unless I saw something too. All right. We're all works in progress. We all do our best. Someone's saying it would be good for them. I hope they're happy. Folks would walk away. They would do a little shrug. Someone they'd say, oh, awesome, and just not pass it along to anyone else. I'd say, this does not matter to me. It's not my business. Does it affect you? Someone's saying I'd get more info. So again, the idea here is not to lead in, but it's instead to shut it down. Someone saying, did you hear starts it, right? Spreading gossip for the intent of fishing. I wouldn't be in their business. Someone saying, I would respond, I just heard from you. Did they hear it? Great point, right? Someone saying you should be happy for them, right? And the intent is to spread concerns of them dating. Someone saying, I'd say, interesting. I haven't heard that. But what are you thinking for lunch, right? And then we just change that subject. Someone's saying it really depends on the role they both play in the organization. But that issue of did you hear, we know it's fact seeking. All right, final scenario. Did you know Alex is going through a divorce? So why is this considered gossip? What's the intent? What would you do? You hear about Alex? The divorce? Someone's saying it's personal, right? No need to spread it. Why is Alex's divorce our business? Someone's saying, let's not discuss his personal business, right? I know if I was going through a divorce, I would not want the whole office talking about it. Someone's saying, once again, this is personal info, and he doesn't present, right? So he isn't present to decide to share that info. Someone's saying, oh, such a shame. I wish him good luck. Maybe you'd say, I feel bad for him. I'll pray for him. Someone's saying it's still gossip because no one needs to know. Maybe not all intention is to spread the rumors, but maybe have concern of what Alex is going through. So someone's saying it might not be that I'm wanting to spread this rumor. It could be that I have a genuine concern for what he's going through. But again, I think that speaks to, let's speak to Alex directly, right? If you're concerned, if you want to help, if you want to support him. So folks are also mentioning it's not work related, right? And this kind of gossip, they hate it because it ruins the office morale. Someone's naming this as extremely personal business that shouldn't be shared. And someone's naming that the knowledge might help coworkers understand why he may be acting a certain way. So this is great, right? We go back to this question of like, what was my intent of sharing it? Maybe it wasn't that I want to make people think Alex is a bad person, but I actually want to make people more understanding of his situation. And then consider, would you talk about this, directly to his face? Maybe you would say to him, hey, Alex, I heard you. That does seem very personal. But maybe you would say, hey, Alex, I heard you were going through a divorce. I went through a divorce myself. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm here, et cetera, right? So again, being mindful, maybe your point is to have empathy. Someone's saying, I'd have empathy for Alex by not engaging in the conversation. It's way too personal. Someone's saying, then you just say that they could be going through something. You don't have to share the personal information. Oh, I think Alex is sort of going through something. That might be why he was a little bit late coming to the meeting today. Someone's saying, I feel like that's Alex's decision to share. So I thank you all so much for going through these different scenarios, being honest about how you would engage. Maybe you would just walk away as someone just named. Maybe you would change the subject. Maybe you would say, hey, what are we doing for lunch? Maybe you'd share some congratulations or some empathy or whatever else, and then bring it back to something that's work related. Someone's saying, I think it would depend on how the information is presented, but it is a little too much information. So hopefully you can take these scenarios and all the information we covered today as you go into the conversations you have with your team. In this conversation, we talked about the nature of rumors and gossip, how it might start off as, we're just sharing this information we heard, or trying to find a way to connect to somebody. But it ends up spiraling into this thing where people lose trust. It creates a culture that feels really unsafe. Folks feel like they can't be honest in relationships. And then there's a sense of, I need to just leave the organization altogether, right? If this is how, it is to work here. So when it comes to changing the culture, the real power we have is over our own behavior. So asking ourselves this question of, am I gossiping? If I am gossiping, why? What is it that I'm wanting to get out of this relationship, of this dynamic? And is there a way I can get that? Right? I can get the connection, I can get the attention, I can get the venting, whatever it is, without engaging in gossip. And then can I use some of this language to, deflect or change the topic when I find myself invited into these gossip conversations? Someone's asking, oh no, that's already covered in the question. Someone's saying this was good. It definitely makes me think about those quote unquote harmless conversations. I'm going to take us to our final slide, bring myself back on camera. If you have additional questions, definitely feel free to keep adding them into the Q&A. But again, I want to thank you so much for your presence, for your engagement, for your amazing examples, for your vulnerability as you shared the reality of your own experiences, and also for what feels like a genuine desire to be a part of creating a culture that does have more like open and respectful dialogue and communication. This is y'all's organization, right? We get to create the environment we want to be in. And by asking ourselves these questions and changing our behavior, that's slowly how it shifts over time. So I'm getting some great feedback coming through. I'm so glad to hear this was helpful. I'm seeing some heart emojis coming through, sending it right on back to y'all. If you have additional questions, please let me know. I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment so I can actually attach this slide as a PDF for you all. So let me just go ahead and save as, and that way if you want to reference the content, it's here for you. And again, this session is being recorded. So if you ever just want to revisit the content itself, you will have access to that as well. I'm getting some great feedback on my energy. I'm so glad. All right, let me go ahead and go to the resources. So it'll be the materials tab. Oh, it looks like it's already available, rumorsandgossip.pdf. So go ahead and click there, and it should be available for you to view. All right, someone's saying I'd love to attend more of your courses. Yes, would love to have you. Someone's saying yes, be the change you want to see. Amazing. Oh, I should have named that. Thank you so much. Someone's saying their name showed when they sent the heart emoji. So thank you for naming that. I'll make sure I add that to my introduction. So the questions in the chat, that remains confidential. But if you do engage with an emoji, you are going to see your name. Thank you for naming that. I'm going to make sure to explicitly call that out in the future. And you all are also going to get a survey at the end of this session. So would love your feedback, would love to hear what went well, anything you want to improve, so we can make sure these sessions continue to be really valuable for you all. And someone's saying, please say your name again. It's Chimdi Ihezie. Thank you for caring about the pronunciation of my name. Oh, someone's saying they don't see anyone else's name with an emoji, only mine when I post. As a presenter, I'm seeing everyone's name, so I'm not sure how it is for others. Feel free to share in the Q&A. Are you seeing other people's names when you see these emojis coming up? People are saying they're not seeing anyone else's name. So I think you only see your name. I get to see y'all's beautiful names, but no one else is seeing your name, just as a heads up. So feel free, if you want, to share the hearts and the thumbs ups and the claps. Only you and I will know that you sent me that love. Okay, beautiful. All right, so we're at our time. I want to thank you all again so much. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. And yeah, sending you all a lot of love as you continue to create a beautiful culture that works well for you all. Bye.